Hey guys, what's up? Unrested back for a full recorded JFAC video. I know you guys saw I put up some clips from some of the streaming I've been doing. Some people were worried that that's how I was going to make videos now. No, I'm still doing my regular uploads with regular information. These are all written down. I always keep notes to make a new video every week. They're still going, so don't worry. I'm here with you, and I'm going to keep giving you that information. Today we're going to talk about what's the best way I can title this? I would say things America kind of struggles with and Japan does really well with. Kind of contrast between, I'd say, workplace efficacy. Ooh, big words. And this is just between working in both places. It's not comparable to every single job possible. Obviously, there's going to be some stuff where America has jobs that Japan doesn't even have, and vice versa, right? Obviously, there's not going to be a localization job at a video game company for English in America, but that would be a job in Japan. So again, this is not supposed to cover every single job. This is a very generalized blanket statement. And just what I saw between working in Japan and the environment there and working in America and the environment here. And please realize also too that of course, there are negatives to working in both countries. Japanese people work until like they literally, are there all day and sometimes don't even get to see their family very much. There's times where some companies have made people work literally to death. Toyota's very guilty of doing that to multiple employees. And then you've got America where people will work their ass off and then they don't even get insurance. So, if they have health problems later from working the job, they can't even pay for the health problems they have because America has like little to no health insurance benefits, or what they do pay is just very minimal. In Japan, you do get your health care pretty much paid for. The company has to pay something like 70% of your health insurance, and it's national health insurance, and just prices don't get nearly anywhere close to as high as they are in America. But these are things that are different. So first of all, work ethic, okay? In America, it's not completely uncommon, and this isn't saying every single person or you, the viewer, do this, to chat with your neighbor while you're working, to, maybe you're just cleaning an area down and you run into a fellow employee and you stop to talk for a couple of minutes, or maybe even when you worked a retail job, if you've ever done one of those, if there was no customers in the store, what's the big deal with just like chatting with someone at the register or, talking to your fellow employee and stuff like that? There's nothing wrong with that while there's nobody in the store. But in Japan, you will never see that. You will see absolutely 100% empty, cleared out stores because maybe it's just not prime time shopping. And either number one person will be like checking everything in the store, like refolding every single shirt or hanging things up, or the other person will be mopping and cleaning things up. I've seen times where, you've got like the mall, right? And there's always like gum stains somewhere in a mall. Someone has dropped gum or something gooey, and there's like a black spot on the floor. And instead of just hanging out and mingling with the crew while nobody's in the store, I've seen people like go out and get like little scrapers and like paint remover to get those black spots up, like out of the store or even near the entranceway where it connects to like the main hallway of the mall. Same with just, working at a school and stuff like that. People rarely stop to have a conversation about just even their personal life, what's going on. If they are going to talk about a problem with a student or a discussion they need to have about an upcoming lesson or meeting, it's like strictly all business that they talk. This means work gets done. It's efficient. There's no stalling out. There's no procrastinating. Where it kind of sucks is that you never get to know the other people you work with in Japan. It feels like you're always kept at arm's length. Nobody really talks too much about their personal life. Um, I mean, of course, if you work at a place for like a decade, eventually you'll start to learn some stuff. But for the most part, people don't talk about like, how was your weekend? What did you do? Like that's kind of a nice aspect of America that I do enjoy. I really like the small casual conversations and learning about people's lives and catching up with them. But in Japan, it's just work, work. We need to talk. Yes, we need to talk about work. When we talk about work. It is only work. So the work ethic and like, there's not really like little breaks taken throughout the day where you just chat with your neighbor or slow down for a second and show your family pictures to them or anything like that. That would never happen at a Japanese job. So when they work hard. Their work ethic is very strict, and there's no lollygagging. I remember after having lived in Japan for, I think it was like about 5 years, they had a Hollister at the mall in Japan, and it was like everything folded perfectly neat, everything hung up, sizes all in a row, perfectly colored, ordered matches. And then I took a break to, I think it was like Christmas break or spring break, I can't remember exactly, and took a week off in America. Just came back to visit to catch up with the grandparents and so that they could see the kids and everything like that. And I went to a Hollister in Tallahassee. That's where it was, at a mall in Tallahassee. And I remember someone working there had pushed all the clothes to the side and was like sitting on the table that they displayed the clothes on, talking to their manager while we shopped around the store. And I just thought, like, in Japan, you would have been like fired ages ago. You would have been so gone. You're like literally sitting on the table where merchandise is, talking to your manager. They never ever even asked, like, you guys need help? You looking for anything or anything like that? And I just thought, like, wow, what a different work ethic. It's incredible. Next one up we've got is complaining at work. Maybe you got to stay late. Maybe you got a bunch of meetings you got to go to and you can't get your regular work done because it's being interrupted by a million meetings. Maybe you've got a bunch of paperwork to fill out. Maybe there's some kind of red tape stopping you from getting something done. We can complain to our fellow employees in America. We can be like, man, I can't believe we've got to do this. This is ridiculous. And of course, your fellow employee would probably reply with, yeah, I know, isn't this stupid that we've got to do all this extra stuff? Or, oh my God, I'm not looking forward to a late night coming up for like stock or inventory. Or like for me with, working, I've got to stay late sometimes for parent-teacher conferences and stuff like that. And while it is a part of the job, and of course every job's got its days where there's like, either an emergency where you've got to stay late or a meeting where you've got to stay late, or maybe there's extra work for something coming up, an event, a festival, etc., etc. If you complain here or there, no one's going to be like, hey, stop it. In Japan, you just wouldn't even do that. You wouldn't complain. Maybe even if someone's making your job harder, you wouldn't even complain to them. You would try to talk to them in a way to be like, I see you're doing this, but I was wondering if I could talk to you about changing it to do this so that you could get the job done in this way. You wouldn't actually go up to them and be like, look, you're doing this all wrong and it's slowing down the process. You would try to amicably meet them in the middle to get something done. You also would never complain about extra work or complain about a later night or complain about, suddenly they ask you to stay late on a day where you're just about to head out the door. Complaining isn't okay at a Japanese job. Like, I made the mistake of doing that when I first started, and I remember it was a company I worked at, and they didn't tell us until the week of that we had a meeting all the way till 7:30 on a Friday night, and of course Fridays when you're just raring to go home, and I was just like, what? I already planned stuff to do on Friday night. Like, I can't stay late. Like, plus we don't even get paid these extra 2 hours we have to stay. Everyone just looked at me like I was an alien. Like, what are you talking? Don't say anything about this. Like, it was something I had to learn early. You don't complain about anything. You just don't complain. Nobody wants to hear it in Japan. Nobody wants to hear it, and it messes up the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is the harmony of the workplace. If you were to really get upset about something in a meeting in America, you could probably stand up and voice what your complaint is or voice what you're upset about. I mean, you still have to like keep it somewhat tempered. You don't want to have like, flipping tables rage type outburst. But if something was really unfair and everybody else in the room knew it was unfair, you could definitely stand up during a meeting most times and be like, look, this is ridiculous. Like, why are we expected to do this? Or this is ridiculous. We're expected to do this thing when the company hasn't even given us the resources to be able to do this. And everyone would be like, yeah, he's right. Why are we You wouldn't do that in Japan. You would just make do. I saw somebody lost their job doing this, complaining. It was another teacher who was a history teacher at one of the schools I worked at, and we had been given a list to ask for all the resources we need to continue teaching. I put down a bunch of stuff, like I think I needed like a paper cutter at the time, and access to a printer, and I hadn't received it, which this is in Japan. This company just kind of always did this. I don't know what their goal was here, but they would like list stuff. They'd be like, "What do you need to like better teach at our school here?" And they'd give us a list, and they just would never supply us with anything we wrote on the list. Maybe they just thought like us writing it down satisfied our need. And this other guy though, he was not happy. He was a world history teacher, and he needed like a globe. I think he needed like a world map, and there's some other stuff too, but the biggest thing was the world map and the globe. He just never received. And we had our first meeting to talk about like how school's going so far. And this guy stood up and raged. He was like, look, I don't know why we're even having this meeting when we haven't even gotten the supplies yet. I asked for a world globe 5 weeks ago, and now I'm still teaching. And look, he was right. He was completely right. I'm not telling this guy to like, shut up, dude. Just deal with what you've got. Like, but the way you would bring that up in Japan is probably like, wait till the meeting's over. Don't suddenly shout it out in the middle of the meeting. Find the person who would be taking care of those supplies. Ask if you could have a personal meeting with them. Meet with them. Say, hey, look, I know things are really busy right now, but I did actually write down that I needed a globe and a world map. As you know, I'm teaching world history, and I don't want to trouble you or make your job any harder, but I think it would be really great for the students if they could look at the areas on a map that I'm talking about in my lessons. That's the appropriate way that you would need to go about it in Japan. Like in America, you could probably be like, when are we ever going to get our supplies? Like you could stand up in a meeting and probably say that, and the person who's the supply manager or whatever would probably be like, I know, I'm sorry, like we're doing the best we can. We'll try to get... Fine, whatever, and sit back down. Like that wouldn't be like outrageous to do in America, but in Japan, if you suddenly did that in the meeting, people would be like mortified. I know as he did this, as he stood up and like was like, I'm still trying to teach this, and I still haven't gotten my globe, and I haven't gotten my world map. Like another Japanese teacher there was like literally had her hand on his shoulder, like trying to pull him back down in his chair, like, shut up, don't say anything. That guy actually lost his job for doing that, which he was like, he was pretty up in arms about it. And like, look, I get it. I understand. I have been in a frustrating situation like that too, where I'm asked to do a job that needs supplies that I'm never given. That was definitely an issue I went through in Japan, where it's just like, you just never get a response and you just got to let it slide. But in Japan, you just need to make do. Like, and like, if you do need to complain, you never complain out like in front of everyone in an outburst sort of way. No outbursts, no arguments. Try not to argue. And again, this is the wa, as they call it, the harmony of the workplace. I've talked about this many times. There's no need to start a fight between you and another rival due to something you feel is not being met. You don't want to do this at the job. Let's see, anything else? I'd say the other biggest thing is dedication to a skill set or a hobby. So for example, if there's something a person wants to focus on at a job, they usually dedicate it as something is like a lifelong pursuing, getting better. You know the whole do 10,000 hours of something to become perfect at it and things like that. that is something a lot of people at their jobs do. Like sometimes they will focus on a skill that they have to use at a job and work on it even when they're not at the job to get better at it so that they can be the best at it while they're doing it at their job. My own wife, for example, she's a dentist, and she will take like multiple classes that she's not required to take whatsoever to be even more focused and aware of everything at her job. So if she's a dentist, she'll go to classes that have to deal with ear, mouth, and nose infections and stuff like that, because it does have a connection to her job. And so she's always pursued learning more and more knowledge, whereas I don't know if we always do that in America. Like you wouldn't probably go to a lot of classes to focus on your work even more and become the best at that skill. So that's another thing I think Japanese are very different from Americans at. I know with schooling here in America, we're forced to actually go to more schooling and more schooling and more schooling all the time to keep our actual licenses. They somewhat have the same thing at schools in Japan, but there's a lot of people there, like if they're like a music or a math teacher, they'll take extra classes that they're not required to take to learn even more about their own subject and pursue it even further, which, look, these are all like respectable things. I'm not trying to say one is better than the other. I am saying there's a different balance sometimes. Like, for example, I think it is important at work to be able to bring up issues you're having that are impeding your efficiency at work. I think these should be voiced, but I think also the way Japan makes sure you don't have like a sudden outburst or arguments at the job is also good. There needs to be some kind of fine balance between these two things. But these are the very different ways that each of these countries handle things at work. And which one is the best? I think in Japan, one of the biggest problems is some of these things that I've just told you about kind of temper the attitudes of a lot of people at work, and it also keeps them sort of quiet and meek. And there's times where I've seen this pretty much used as what's called like pawahara, which means power harassment, and they're forced into these long, endless hours. As a teacher there, you're working 7 to 7. And if like there's parent-teacher conferences, I've seen teachers work from 7 a.m. and stay till 2 a.m. for a meeting with a parent and a teacher, parent and a student. Like I've seen that go on that long before, where I came in the next day and the guy was super tired. I'm like, why, what's wrong? And he's like, yeah, I had to stay here till 2 a.m. last night. I had like a really angry parent that just kept talking to me about how like even though their kid gets into fights, we should leave them alone and stuff like that. And it's just like, what? And you stay till 2 a.m. and entertain this conversation? Like in America, when our parent-teacher meetings cut off at 7:30 p.m., you gotta go. You gotta go home. You know, I'm sorry if you have more issues. Wait for the next parent-teacher meeting or make an appointment. We're not going to stay open till 2 a.m. for you to, you know, go through a laundry list of things you think we're doing wrong. That's, you know, I'm sorry if you do think we have that problem, but make another appointment. In Japan, they'll just like cater to that, to stay and work insane hours. That's a big problem. On the other hand, there is a lot more getting done. Things are more efficient. Our school years were like super efficient. Like you knew everything that was coming up 3 months ahead of time. On the downside, things are buttoned down to such a regimented schedule that nothing new is ever added. So we're still dealing with the same English teaching books that they had in the early 1970s, and nobody's ever learning English in Japan. So there's parts where this goes really well, and there's parts where this totally breaks down. And of course, America too, we've got problems with our own education system as well. You know, we're not as strict about like certain aspects of judging grades and things like that. Sometimes we rely too much on these, what they call a benchmark test to get a kid to another level of grade. So we've both got problems, Japan and America, as far as work, education, work-life balance. I think it's getting worse kind of in America, where our work-life balance is starting to be completely consumed by work, to the point that newer generations are kind of avoiding work at this point. And it's interesting because in Japan too, we're starting to see the same thing, where people refuse to take full-time work because they watch their dads and their moms work 12-hour jobs, and they're just like, why would I want to have my whole life eaten up by a job to pay for a house and a family that I never get to see because I'm always at that job? And it's a very good point. I think there's got to be something that's got to give when it comes to the way Japan's work system forces people to dedicate massive amounts of their life to working hours. And I think with America, there's a little more work-life balance. Like, we're not working 12-hour days most of the time. But even with me within teaching, I mean, we sometimes work 50 to 60 hours a week. But we do actually get a summer break, which the Japanese don't. On top of that, I think America's biggest issue right now is the benefits of a job. And when I say benefits, I don't mean like we need more bonuses, we need more money. Like, I think just the simple idea of, if you work a job, that job should try to help pay for your health care so that you can continue to work top notch. You know, if you're always worried about your health, or your health is always in question, or, you know, you may have to take time off from that job or not work as well at that job because the job does not help cover your health insurance, then it's kind of like, okay, you're a source of money, but nothing else in my life is taken care of. Like, I could die tomorrow from something, massive heart attack or a stroke, and you just replace me with another person you can pay money. I think there needs to be a better source of health coverage in America. I think that's one of the biggest problems I see with America, is just there's like no assurance that your health will be taken care of at a job. Of course, if you injure yourself, you can get workers' comp, but there's nothing to help you take care of like long-term health. And that's kind of scary about America. That's always been kind of scary for me. And it's scary for, like, you know, having a family too, because, you know, what if your kid or someone else in your family has some kind of health crisis and you just have no way to cover it financially, because we don't really get much insurance in America. Whereas in Japan, they usually cover your insurance by 70%. And sometimes they have entire plans that cover your family as well, because there are still stay-at-home moms there, and there are still, you know, people taking care of kids. The government also has programs in place too, where kids never pay over a certain price for healthcare. I think like the highest they ever have to pay is like $5. So that's a really nice thing that they actually care about making sure kids have healthcare coverage, which I think America needs to do something about that if you care about the youth. Every country these days has a dropping population and people having less and less kids because of the financial scares of having a full family. And I'd say one of those number one top fears is covering healthcare for a family. So both countries, as far as a balance is concerned, definitely Japan takes the cake as far as making sure families have healthcare. Their problem is the balance of life and work, family life and work, and the fact that a lot of families don't get to see their own children due to the fact that they're forced to work insane hours. And America has the problem that they can't take care of the health care of their own children because we don't have the benefit of any kind of good healthcare system in America or work. So these are kind of the two big differences I see. These are things that I see both countries having struggles with as far as how they take care of workers or how work relations operate in the workplace. What have you ever read about, or what have you seen at your own job that you feel is something either Japan does better or does worse? What are some things that you think your own country could improve on as far as taking care of their own employees or workplace agenda? What have you seen that frustrates you at work? And let's compare it up to some of the stuff that goes on in Japan. We can talk about it in the comments down below. Before I go, I want to just give a huge shout out to everybody who's been joining my streams recently. I also want to let you know this is super important. Osoroshi Nights is a new channel that I have now, and I've put up my first video. Please, if you like my channel here, Unrested, and you want to see more about Japan, please please check out Osoroshi Nights. It covers a lot of folklore and some horror stuff as well as far as Japan is concerned. You'll get into some more traditional legends and stuff like that. I just launched the channel, and my first goal is to reach 500 subscribers, and that takes me up to another level where I can finally add AdSense to it and everything like that. So 500 subscribers would be sick. That would be insane. Please check it out. I'm going to comment from my other channel as Osoroshi Nights so that you can find it easily, because some people said doing searches for it have not helped out. Osoroshi is spelled Osoroshii, Nights. I think you know how to spell that. And again, thank you guys so much for joining my streams. If you don't know, I have two different types really of streams. I have some that are just chatting and just hanging out with viewers. It's really enjoyable. You know, we have a really chill atmosphere. Then I also have Osoroshi Night streams. I actually use those for footage and coverage of the things that I'm talking about in upcoming Osoroshi videos. We either play a horror game together or we actually watch horror movies together, because if you didn't know, there's a lot of free Japanese horror movies on YouTube that I can stream without dealing with any copyright strikes. So if you're interested in doing that, it's usually every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. Usually 7 to 9 p.m. is the starting time, and that's Eastern Standard Time, or EDT, Florida time, if you don't know. Come join us. You don't need to be a member. You don't need to, donate. You don't need to give me super chats or super berries or whatever anybody call. I just like to chill out with my viewers and have a wonderful conversation. It's been super fun. It's like hanging out with a room full of friends. The environment's really chill. Everything's really chill. It's a super, super fun time. One thing I need to do right now is I need to give a shout out to all of my awesome members. And to do that, I need to switch my account to... I don't have it ready to go. I need to switch my account to my members and let them know that they're appreciated. But I did not do that before starting this video, so I'll do it in my members video. Guys, members video comes out today, and it will continue to come out from this day forward. Last week, we did have a pause on members videos, and that's due to the fact that I switched my account to an American account. Obviously, I started in Japan, and to switch your AdSense and your YouTube account is a massive issue, and it took over a week for YouTube to approve that. During that time, it cut me off from all my members. Like, I couldn't even see who was a member. You should be okay now if you were a member in the past. It didn't let me see the list, so I thought it had just like cut all my members off of the channel, and I thought I lost them all. I was like kind of really sad. It kept them, but it hides them from you and doesn't let you like put out a video for them, so it's kind of really weird. But right after I finish recording this, which I'm almost about done, I'm going to go right into recording my members video after that. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments down below about your work issues and comparisons to Japan. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Till next time, I've been Unrested, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.